What's up, AdTech land? We've been gone for a minute, but now we're back with a new episode of Ad Monsters Discourse, where we talk about the latest happenings in digital media and ad tech. With that said, email newsletters are booming. Some people are calling it the Substack effect. And even the New York Times has doubled down on their newsletter offerings with subscriber-only editions. In fact, last year, LiveIntent found that 87% of publishers and marketers were actively investing in email, and 94% were prioritizing scaling their email programs. The truth is, publishers have been using their email newsletters as audience generation tools for their O&O properties for ages. So don't call it a comeback. Email newsletters have been here for years. This recent surge can be attributed partly to all sorts of things like the cookie crackdown, privacy regulations, and especially publishers' need to diversify their revenue streams. Today, we are here with LiveIntent's Rachel Rubin, Vice President of Customer Success, to talk about all of these things, and especially how email newsletters are helping pubs to build solid, direct sold programs. So let's get into it. Hi, Rachel. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. We wanted to have you here today to talk about this email newsletter boom, and especially the opportunity for publishers to build out a direct sold program. So it's been said that email newsletters have become the new homepage for digital publishers, especially since we've seen newsletters like Morning Brew and the rest of those in that cadre, right, of newsletter publishers. It seems that nearly everyone is doubling down on the channel. Is this more than a trend?
Yeah, I mean, this question makes me chuckle a little bit because of, what you just said in your intro. Newsletters have been here for a long time now, but it's exciting to see that publishers are really understanding the value of this channel. So publishers and marketers have been using newsletters to engage with their readers and their customers for well over a decade now. So again, calling it a trend is a little misrepresentative of, what email really is. And that said, the focus on newsletters has definitely surged over the pandemic. Over the last 2 years, we've seen that email marketing engagement rose by 200%, which is amazing. And the best part about that kind of stat there is that the new readers that we kind of generated and got into the newsletter space at the beginning of the pandemic are also staying in the inbox. So this spike has helped more companies really see the value of the newsletters as a trusted channel for building and engaging with their audience. And if you think about it, right, this channel is different than the web and different than social because these users are really opting in. They're raising their hand. They're saying, yes, I want content from this publisher, from this marketer. They're opting in, they're opening their newsletter, and then they're opening that specific email from that day. So it's a really engaged audience. So it's exciting for me to see that publishers and marketers alike are really doubling down. And then another main driver of why they're doubling down in the email is due to the growing role as means to collecting first-party data, right? Like we're talking about the third-party cookies going away, the need to collect first-party data is so important. But however, for the email environment to remain that viable solution to collect first-party data, publishers and brands really need to continue to provide that value to their newsletter readers and be transparent about the value exchange too, right? Mentioning in their newsletter somewhere saying like, hey, we have your email address now, and this helps us improve your product offerings. Just mentioning it so that it's transparent there, right? So kind of to wrap it all up and to answer your question, like, no, I don't think it's just a trend. Email's here to stay. And it's really exciting to see that, everyone's understanding the value now.
Right. Email newsletters are here to stay. They're not going away.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I think we need to have folks remember that. And you unpacked a lot of really important things there about the cookies going away, about the pandemic, about first party data collection. And I want to dig into all of those things separately. I think one thing that's interesting is what you talked about over the pandemic. Everyone was talking about people streaming like crazy, like podcasts going up and CTV going up. But I don't think we were hearing as much about the email newsletter going up, the email newsletter rates going up, and especially people staying in the inbox as the new homepage. I think that with that, for publishers, what we've been hearing are that PMPs and PGs are trending because of this. What has been LiveIntent's thinking?
Yeah, definitely. And this all makes sense too, because PMPs and PGs trending also makes sense when it comes to kind of like the death of the third-party cookie, right? So with the third-party cookie going away, the future of targeting is kind of in limbo, and direct deals are gaining serious momentum regardless of what pipes the execution is coming from, right? So here at LiveIntent and in the email newsletters, we are integrated with all the external DSPs. So whatever means of executing a campaign that an advertiser wants to take, they can do so. So if that's within DV360 or the Trade Desk or what other DSP they use, they can execute a PMP into the email newsletter through there. We also have our managed service or kind of direct sold ways to execute direct deals into the newsletters. PMP or PG, I do want to address in email newsletters. That's not a capability we have today because unlike the web, which is like constant, right? Email, it ebbs and flows. We have send schedules. Sometimes we don't send on a Sunday, right? So it's really hard to guarantee that buy. So right now we don't have PG, but we have, priority PMPs that are certainly, coming up more and more now in the environment. Because at the end of the day, the advertisers really want to ensure that they're reaching their relevant audience, right? And who knows their audience best than the publishers who engage with their readers on a daily basis. So in market, we're already seeing that contextual and audience-based deals are coming up more and more frequently. And we're seeing that the publishers who can really articulate what makes their audiences and their content unique. So, a publisher has food lovers audience, or, like CNBC who has the finance enthusiast, or, HGTV who's homeowners, right? They've really branded that and conquested that market. They're the ones that are able to take advantage and secure these types of deals more easily than the others. And then lastly, I know we hit upon a lot as it relates to the demise of the third-party cookie. Email is kind of like the unique snowflake in it all, right? Because we don't really rely on cookies. We rely on email hashes, right? So it's easy for an advertiser or a publisher to target their own first-party data, regardless of what pipes, like I said, they are executing from. And we're not feeling as pulled by the death of the third-party cookie because we're excited about it, honestly, because it puts more value on that email hash.
Right. I think it's easier for a pub to share that value exchange with their audience in the newsletter than it is on the website with all of these, now everybody has all these pop-ups, right? And it's driving people crazy, right? I think also something you touched on there is the excitement about the third-party cookies demise. Many pubs have probably avoided investing here in this channel, probably because they thought it took too much work, right? So that's why so much work has gone into programmatic over
Right.
the last few years, because they thought newsletters it's just too much work to monetize. But the truth is, and especially with something like what you guys have at Live Intent with like native ad blueprints, right? That solution, which helps publishers create scalable premium ad experience in their email newsletters, right? That product can help a pub increase the yield of their direct sold program. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And I mean, I love how you kind of identified the challenge of the newsletter too, right? Like I said, that we're the unique snowflake. So that is scary sometimes, right? It's different. It's not easy. But Live Intent has made newsletters easy, right? So historically, if you were going to do native in newsletters, that takes a lot of time and bandwidth, and it's very manual because you need someone coding that HTML every single time you want to switch out that ad. So yeah, I would stay away from that if it was,
I know,
it
I've
was
had to
me.
do it.
Right. Oh, there you go. So with, Live Intent, we're helping to make that easier. And if we're able to enable a publisher to include native formats in their media kit without that really operational drag of hard coding every single campaign, then that certainly helps their yield, right? That increases their ability to sell that directly, as well as, Live Intent can power some native ads as well. So, and then additionally, native in general is like this exciting new topic, I feel like, in email newsletters, right? And the reason is because native ads, since they're designed to look and feel like the newsletter content, they drive higher engagement and they help advertisers build brand equity. So they're like a win-win all around, because advertisers are getting higher click-through rates and more performance, but the publishers also can justify more premium CPMs with these placements. So the yield goes up, right? Because they can sell it for more. So again, before Live Intent was able to bring this native ad blueprints product to market, there was a lot of money being left on the tables from the publishers because they just didn't have the resources or the time to spend hard coding these placements. So, with this, a lot of publishers are really leaning into the use of our native ad blueprints product for their direct sold campaigns to increase yields. But then also, we've recently come to market with a native offering that we're calling native curated packages. So it's essentially our version of bringing native demand to our publishers. And it's a little different than how we bring display demand today, because we recognize that native is more premium and it is a little bit more sensitive to the publishers, right? They want to be able to pick and choose which advertisers run natively in their email newsletters because it looks like their content, right? So we give them those controls every time we have a demand campaign come through. We directly reach out to our publishers. Hey, do you want this campaign? It's at this CPM. You'll get this much revenue. And, we want to be very sensitive to, either a yes or a no, right? Like we don't want to push it at all because we understand how important the newsletter is and the look and feel is. And then lastly, just same like direct sold premium CPMs, we're able to bring premium CPMs because it's really more of a branding play for the advertisers. So they're willing to pay a higher price to get into those premium publishers and look and feel like their content than they are for, let's say like a DR campaign. So all around, I am really, really excited about native and the future of native in newsletters.
Yeah, I definitely think as we go into 2023, we'll be hearing about a lot more publisher success stories using the channel to drive revenue and increase yield in this way. What has been interesting to me about that is that it puts the publishers in control, right? In the open web, whereas these ad tech systems are setting the prices and the auctions. Here, the publisher is in control. has control of the look and feel, has control of the pricing, has control of how the data is being used.
Yeah.
So many things, right, that they don't have control over in the open web. So it sounds like a win-win to me. I don't know what publishers are waiting for, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about first-party data a little bit earlier as a key to surviving the cookieless future. You guys talk a lot about the hashed email, which some people have said it's not going to be the hashed email, it's going to be the ID, or it's going to be whatever Google comes up with.
Right.
I think if I had to be the one setting the course of opinion here, I would say it's going to be a combination of those things. It's not going to be just one thing. So that's one of the biggest advantages of launching this direct sold email newsletter program is this collection of first party data, the activation of the first party data. But what are some of the other benefits that you guys see for pubs?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a critical component. You can use your newsletter content and add engagement data to build audiences, right? So by looking at your reader engagement with your content, you can segment out audiences by interests. So like sports fans or health and wellness enthusiasts or finance enthusiasts, for example. Right? So newsletter content and ad engagement data can also lend insight into reader behavior. So by examining the metrics like clicks, you can glean which readers are taking action and then segment those users, right? So it's really a way that you can create first party data, right? The email environment. And first party data is so valuable to email revenue teams too, as it enables them to construct deals focused on audience quality, right? It's all about the quality of that audience.
Right.
And then their propensity to engage with a specific topic or interest. So tying this all back to direct sold and the direct deal question earlier, this approach helps publishers and to really like bring on new advertisers, right? So they're able to do that by showcasing their unique offering. So captivating content or highly engaged audiences, like these are things that they can talk about when they're looking to partner with a new advertiser, and using first party data as that foundation for your direct sold deals, you know, that's a win. That's a huge win for all of our publishers. So I love that pair of utilizing and highlighting their audience and first party data to get more advertisers wanting to buy into their inventory.
And it's a high value audience to your point of it being highly engaged. You're knowing a lot more about this audience to be able to sell it to the advertiser. Again, like you said, a win for pubs for sure. Another thing, you're talking about first party data. Another thing that we've been hearing about is this kind of convergence of MarTech and ad tech, taking this first party data out of the silos. I wanted to know from you, how can pubs leverage their CRM data to increase their reach with email newsletters?
Yeah, so this question kind of pulls me in two different directions, because we just talked about like the email environment in and of itself is a source to create first party data and enrich their CRM data. And, you know, they can do that by, you know, utilizing this CRM data in the email newsletter to target, you know, new subscribers or suppress subscribers or target content clickers, or, you know, utilize it for marketing campaigns, right? Across the email channel, not just within their owned and operated email, but extending their CRM data and targeting the exchange of emails that we have, right? So that is a great way to utilize your CRM data to reach more, you know, engaged users across the email exchange. Obviously, you can use your CRM data for direct sold targeting, which we've talked about a lot throughout this conversation. And then again, for marketing campaigns as well. And then the other thing I think about when I'm thinking about leveraging CRM data, it's not all about targeting, right? Like when I think about leveraging CRM data, especially in the email newsletters, I first think about suppression, right? So when you are targeting users, it does limit your reach, right? So when you're thinking about suppression, it's really the opposite, right? You know who you don't want to target, so you can target users, many more users in the email space. So always thinking about like, how am I using this CRM data? And then lastly, when I'm thinking about leveraging CRM data, I'm thinking about why, right? I think with the cookie apocalypse and everything like that, we're all leaning in on this first party data, but are we using it to the best of our ability, right? Are we using it because, we have a sports enthusiast segment and we're working with Nike, right? That makes sense. But are we just using it just to say that we're using first party data, right? So I think the why behind it is really important too, because as we mentioned, you're already in an environment that is so premium, that is so engaged. So when adding in and layering on CRM, I think it's just we have to stop and make sure that it makes sense in each environment.
Right. The important things I'm hearing coming out of this are, one is you're not just targeting on your O&O, you can target out there as well, which I think is great. That's excellent, because a lot of people are really fearful about reaching people beyond their O&O. Another thing that we didn't quite talk about, but you touched on in a way, is this gives the publisher an opportunity to build new products as well. Mm-hmm. I have a general newsletter, but then I realized that some of my audience, based on the behaviors in my newsletter, are more into sports and more into cooking, as you said, and right. I can take that part of the audience and create an entirely new product, thus more revenue streams, more first party data.
Exactly.
It's just sounding so awesome all around. But the thing that gets scary, and I didn't quite prepare you for this, but I know you have a take on it. Apple's privacy changes in the inbox. Yeah. Especially on the mobile phone.
Yeah.
It's scary for publishers. Well, how are you guys thinking about this?
Yeah, it's scary, but I mean, these curveballs are not new to us, right? Like we talked about 10 years ago, working in email was not worth it because it was new and it was scary and it was, not the same as what they were used to, right? So this is just something else that it requires education from our part, right? We have, as before MPP came to be, we were researching and right on the forefront of it. So we're really well educated here at LiveIntent. And my main goal is to educate my publishers and just ensure that they understand what that means for their email newsletters and what that means really more for their metrics, because we're not seeing revenue decline. We're just seeing the metrics that we once loved and held on to and used are maybe not so accurate anymore. So now we're just in a period of transitioning to a different metric. And LiveIntent has worked really, really hard to come up with these adjusted metrics so that our publishers and our advertisers can still understand the performance of their newsletters outside of just the revenue metric. So I think it was a big change for us. It's insane that we're almost hitting that year mark in September, that it's been here for a year. But again, it's really about education. And once we're all educated on it, I'm not worried about it moving forward.
Right. I mean, that was iOS 15. And with iOS 16, they're talking about being turned on by default, which is, but again, if publishers are communicating that value exchange properly.
Yeah.
They have a captivated audience.
Yeah.
It should not be a problem for them.
Yeah, I don't think it is. And I'm not worried right now about it being turned on automatically either, at least for the publisher's perspective, because the way that Apple has worded the opt-in is so appealing to someone who's not educated about what it does. So I think we've seen it was like about 95% of users who have opted in. So, turning on that 5% is not going to do too much anyway.
Right. That's great. It's good to have those stats because people don't have the stats and they're just talking in generalizations. And so it becomes this big fear factor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
once you know about it, it becomes less scary. So that's the big end goal here.
So if people lost their way along the course of our conversation, what are the top 3 things that you want pubs to know about direct sold and email newsletters?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that, one, it's a really easy channel to utilize your first party data. 2, it's a really easy channel to create first party data and work with us on creating the proper segments to use within your email environment, but also extend to all of your other channels, right? The first party data you create in email can be used elsewhere. And then third, leaning into native can only help increase your yield from a programmatic standpoint and a direct sold standpoint. So those are the 3 takeaways that I would highlight.
Thank you. Thank you for your time today, Rachel. And I'm Lindy Johnson, Content Director at AdMonsters, signing out.
Awesome. Thank you so much.